I mean, but maybe actually, I think maybe if it's cool, we'll get in another couple of weeks, we'll have the left conversation, because I just want to stay on this media tip for a minute.
Sure.
Like, MSNBC has really outdone itself in this cycle in terms of like not just what you'd expect, which is obviously a bias against Sanders and a bias, frankly, even just really crudely against an agenda that could have implications for hosts' tax brackets and for the media conglomerate that owns the company. And I'm sorry, if you think that's conspiratorial, then you're just shockingly naive to not think that people have self-interest. But like, do you find something, and again, maybe this, something so revealing about the fact that not just are they opposed to it, but that they have this like, I just can't get over the bizarre, weird, obsessive hatred of Sanders. And also, I'd like to actually juxtapose that with the point you keep making about Trump, which is so important, which is that not only has it been already adjudicated, and we don't mean like, oh, that's old news, whatever. It matters every second that our president is a white supremacist bigot. But the point is that every time you recycle that conversation and ask, is it really so, you're actually cheapening the topic.
Yes. And also, it's just, when I say that it's been adjudicated, I don't mean that you shouldn't cover the instances of racism or the racist statements coming from Trump. I think the proper way to cover those stories at this point is to talk about it, condemn it for what it is, which is racism, and avoid having the same ridiculous debate as if it hasn't been adjudicated, right? So condemning it is important, because there are people who are receiving serious threats, whose lives are being risked, and people who have already died because of the rhetoric coming from the Trump administration. But at the same time, and this is my suspicion, it's very easy to have that debate, right? Yes. Because it distracts from the very policies that these wealthy cable news hosts don't want to give any airtime to. I mean, I think we forget that most of these people have multi-million-dollar contracts. Most of these people don't want to pay more in taxes. You know, when Jake Tapper is asking about whether these policies coming from progressives is going to increase middle-class tax rates, you think he's really concerned about middle-class tax rates? No, he's concerned about the money he's making. And we can't, I don't think that it's impossible for someone to be wealthy and still, care about progressive policies and want to focus on and shed light on progressive policies. But I think what we're seeing in cable news with most of these hosts is, look, they're living in a completely different world. They don't know what it's like to struggle to put food on the table for your kids. They don't know what it's like to not have a way of getting to work, or not knowing whether or not you're going to be able to pay rent the next day. They don't know what it's like to live in a freaking RV on the streets of Los Angeles and have this constant fear that it's going to be towed because there's a 2-hour parking limit on the street that you're parked on. They don't know what that's like. So these policies are, to them, is just, what are they going to do? Are they going to take more of my pay away from me? Are they going to, are they going to get rid of these tax cuts? That's what they're concerned about. And I think that's the reason why they have so much disdain for so many of these policies.
Middle-class people balancing having to pay property taxes on a home in the Hamptons, Upper East Side in Connecticut. As a final question, because I know you got to go in a minute, but whether we're talking about, and we will talk about the Vampire Castle essay and how the left can be more inviting and strategic, or even dealing with all of the themes we've been talking about tonight, my question is, can we all just be, and I'm going to be a pure stan here, can we all just be a little bit more like Cornel West? Is that possible?
I think the world would be a much better place if we could all be more like Cornel West. He's so non-judgmental and inspiring. I listen to him on days where I want to go in a rage and I want to go on air and say incredibly mean things about the right wing. Mm-hmm. You have to be strategic. You really do. Because if you come at them, or if you come at independents, I mean, Trump supporters are Trump supporters. At this point, if they still support him, they're a lost cause.
Right.
But there are people who aren't as politically aware. I mean, you got to remember, most people don't live in the bubble we live in.
Absolutely.
Where we live and breathe this stuff. It's our job. most people are struggling. They have to work multiple jobs, and they don't have that resource of time to sit down and really do the type of analysis that we do. So if they're relying on us or other left-wing shows on social media platforms, it's important for us to, convey a message in a very non-judgmental way. We need to be more appealing to people, and you're not going to be appealing if you always attack individuals for not using the exact correct language that you want.
Right.
We need to put our own personal preferences aside and try to communicate with others in a way that, will kind of pull them to our side so they can see that the proposals coming from progressives makes the most sense economically and morally.
And that, not for a sec, and that has nothing to do with anything with compromising on any core values. It's all about this, like, sometimes real derailment of like obsession with like certain types of like social positioning outside of this, broader commitment to the policy set and the values, and then also really just like the ethos that somebody that Cornel West brings forward, which is both uncompromisingly radical, but also cognizant of appealing to a broad, of a broad set of human beings across the world, and also humble because we all have to grow.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I love about him the most. His ability to point to someone like Donald Trump, call him a gangster, and then immediately follow that with, I recognize that he's a gangster because I have gangster in me.
Right.
It's just this moment of self-reflection that I think that we are all capable of, and I think we should do a little more of.
Anna Kasparian, you are so on point. And also, of course, everybody, listen to on podcast and subscribe to No Filter, which is what I do, because I need the undiluted, the uncut, the No Filter. And then, of course, also on The Young Turks, where she is a co-host and producer. Anna Kasparian, thank you so much, as always.
Thank you, Michael. My pleasure.
You've just watched a Michael Brooks show video, and you can watch all of our full main live shows every Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and subscribe to get all of the clips you want. We're covering the globe. We're focusing on international relations, the intellectual dark web. We're having fun. We're doing deep dives with a lot of amazing guests. Of course, become a patron for the whole thing at patreon.com/TMBS, or subscribe to this YouTube channel and help us keep growing and get that content out there. Subscribe below.